All right, let's go. Number 10. Direwolf. The fire is low. You're crouched at the edge of your group's camp, maybe 15 of you huddled in a shallow rock overhang on the open grasslands of Pleistocene North America. The embers are dying. The hunt today was a failure. Tomorrow, you'll try again, if tomorrow comes. And then you hear it. A howl. Long. Low. Rising from the west, half a kilometer out. Your fingers find the spear beside you. You know that howl. You've known it your entire short life. A second howl answers. From the north. Then a third, from directly behind you. They're not announcing themselves. They're communicating. Triangulating. Coordinating the approach from 3 directions so that when they hit, your group can only run in the one direction they've already chosen, the direction where the rest of the pack is waiting. The dire wolf, Canis dirus, 60 kilograms of dense muscle built for one purpose, to bring down prey through coordinated group violence. Its jaws were shorter than a gray wolf's, but far more powerful, a bite force exceeding 900 newtons, enough to snap through a human forearm in a single strike. And they never came alone. Dire wolves hunted in packs of 30 or more. At Rancho La Brea, the tar pits of Los Angeles, over 4,000 dire wolf skeletons have been recovered from a single site. 4,000 individuals drawn to the same killing ground across thousands of years. No modern pack predator hunts in numbers like that. The bones tell the rest of the story. At kill sites across North and South America, human remains show the distinctive parallel grooves of carnivore teeth scraping meat from bone. Your ancestors did not write down what happened on those nights. They didn't need to. The bones are enough. Humans survived through the one weapon the direwolf had no answer for: fire. Weaponized. Persistent. Maintained through the night. The slow transformation of humans from prey animals, who feared darkness, into the only species on Earth that could claim it. The direwolf vanished roughly 10,000 years ago. Its heavy build, perfect for large, slow prey, became a death sentence in a faster world. The gray wolf adapted. The direwolf did not. But that chill when you hear a howl at night, the one that moves through you before thought can catch it, that fear is older than civilization. And the direwolf was not the worst thing hunting your ancestors in the dark. Something far heavier was already inside the cave. It didn't need a pack, and it didn't need to circle. It only needed your scent. Number 9. Cave hyena. You wake up. Not because of a sound, because of a smell. Something thick and rancid, a wet fur stench that coats the back of your throat like grease. The cave is cold. The fire has died to a faint orange smear. And then you hear the breathing, not human breathing. Something ragged, wet, too close, coming from inside the cave, from behind you. Every muscle locks. You don't move. You don't breathe, because every cell in your brain is screaming one word: hyena. Crocuta spelaea was a 90-kilogram active predator, built entirely from jaw muscle, neck muscle, and killing instinct. Its bite force exceeded 4,500 newtons. A modern hyena can crack a giraffe's femur. The cave hyena could crack yours. And it came into your home to do it. It didn't wait outside. It didn't ambush you in the open. It entered human caves. Deliberately. At night. While you slept. The evidence reads like a crime scene. At Kent's Cavern in England, gnawed human bones were recovered alongside fossilized hyena droppings containing fragments of crushed bone. Bone that analysis suggests may have been human. The cave hyena didn't just hunt humans. It ate them inside their own shelters and marked the floor on its way out. Caves were the single most critical survival resource of the Ice Age. In Europe, where winter temperatures plunged to -40 degrees, a cave was the line between life and death. The cave hyena needed them for the same reasons: denning, shelter, protection. And so, for tens of thousands of years, both species waged a silent war over the same few square meters of dry stone. Your instinct to sleep with your back against a wall, the discomfort in an open room, the pull toward the seat facing the door, was never taught to you. It was installed by 10,000 generations of ancestors who learned, at terrible cost, that the only safe direction was the one with solid stone behind it. How did they survive? Fire maintained through the night by rotating sentries. The earliest evidence of sustained overnight fire correlates directly with regions where cave hyena populations were densest. Your ancestors never let the flame die, not because they feared the cold, because they were terrified of what the cold brought in with it. The cave hyena is gone, but the one that walked into darkness to find you sleeping, its legacy isn't. The next predator offered none of the cave hyena's warnings. No smell, no sound, no footfall. It moved through country your ancestors were crossing for the first time, and it erupted from cover before the eye could process what it was seeing. It hit like a wall of muscle, and by the time you saw it, you were already down. Number 8. American lion. The bison herd is nervous. You can see it from the low ridge, 50 of them, bunched tight, heads swinging. The air carries sage, dry dust, and something else beneath that. Something musky and predatory that settles at the base of your skull like a warning. You scan the tall grass. Nothing. You scan the tree line. Nothing moves. And then the grass 5 meters in front of you flattens, silently, impossibly fast, and 400 kilograms of muscle and claws erupts from the earth like the ground itself has come alive. The American lion. Panthera atrox. The largest cat ever to walk the Americas. 400 kilograms, 25% heavier than the biggest male African lion alive today. A skull 20% longer, limbs built for a single catastrophic charge, explosive acceleration over 10 to 20 meters, ending in an impact that could kill before the claws even found their grip. It did not chase you. It waited for you to come to it. Fossil evidence from Natural Trap Cave in Wyoming, a sinkhole that swallowed animals for over 100,000 years, places the American lion directly on the migration corridors your ancestors used to push south through the ice, free interior of North America. The same ground. The same paths. Your ancestors did not simply walk into a new continent. They walked into a kill zone that already had a king. Nothing in North America challenged it. And when small bands of humans filtered down from Beringia, exhausted, thin, armed with sharpened stone, they entered its world as something new, something untested. It learned quickly what they were worth. Population bottlenecks in the genetic record of early Americans, sudden contractions in diversity, correlate with periods of intense predation pressure. Some bands simply vanished. The ones that persisted moved in larger groups, maintained relentless vigilance, and never traveled alone. Your discomfort with isolation. Your instinct to feel safer surrounded by others. The nervous sweep of your eyes across open ground when you're the only figure visible. The American lion wrote every line of that code. It endured for 11,000 years alongside your ancestors before the megafauna collapse finally erased it. 11,000 years of sharing the same killing grounds, the same river crossings, the same migration routes. 11,000 years of being hunted on your own path. But the American lion killed from the ground. It left tracks. It cast a shadow you might, just barely, catch in time to run. The next predator gave you none of that. It came from a direction your ancestors almost never thought to look, straight down. Number 7. Haast's Eagle. You are walking through a forest of ancient podocarp trees on the South Island of what will one day be called New Zealand. It is roughly 700 years ago. 700 years, not the deep prehistoric past, 700 years ago, your ancestors were building cathedrals, sailing trade routes, writing manuscripts. The grandchildren of the last people to walk under this eagle's shadow may have lived long enough to tell their own grandchildren what it was like. This creature did not die in some unimaginable ancient world. It died in history, and it was hunting humans while it did. That is the most terrifying thing about what comes next. Not how old it is, how recent. Your people arrived on these islands only a few generations back. Polynesian voyagers, the greatest navigators the Pacific ever produced. You crossed thousands of kilometers of open ocean. You survived crossings that would have killed lesser sailors. You thought the ocean was the most dangerous thing you would ever face. You were wrong. The shadow passes over you so fast it barely registers, a flicker of darkness across the forest floor, quick and geometric and wrong. Not a cloud, not a branch, something with intention. You look up. The last thing you see is talons. Haast's Eagle, Hieraaetus moorei, the largest eagle that ever lived, and the only bird of prey in recorded history confirmed to have actively hunted humans. A wingspan of 3 meters, talons identical in size and curvature to the claws of a Bengal tiger. It attacked from above at speeds exceeding 80 kilometers per hour. Researchers at Canterbury Museum concluded that its strike force was comparable to a concrete block dropped from the roof of an 8-story building. Onto your head. For most of its existence, the eagle hunted the moa, flightless birds weighing up to 230 kilograms, driving its talons into the spine with surgical precision. When Polynesian settlers hunted the moa toward extinction, the eagle adapted. It turned its attention to the next large, slow, upright animal moving through its forest. Moorei oral tradition preserved accounts of the pukai, a monstrous bird that took people from the sky. For centuries, Western scientists dismissed this as myth. Then they found the bones. Human remains from early Polynesian settlements show puncture wounds to the skull and upper shoulders, precisely the trauma pattern of a diving eagle striking from behind and above. Your ancestors had spent millions of years learning to watch the ground. They scanned the horizon. They read the grass. They listened for footsteps. Nobody looked up. Haast's eagle went extinct roughly 600 years ago. A casualty of the same extinction cascade it tried to outlast by hunting us. But that involuntary duck when a shadow crosses overhead too fast, that spike of alarm when something moves at the edge of your upward vision, has no modern cause. It has an ancient one. And now, you know its name. The next creature didn't fall from the sky. It lived in the one place your ancestors couldn't survive without, the cave, the shelter, the only refuge the Ice Age offered. And it weighed half a ton. Number 6. Cave bear. The entrance is narrow. You can see it from across the valley. A dark mouth in the limestone cliff, half screened by dead brush. Snow has been falling for 3 days. The temperature is sliding toward lethal. Your band, 7 adults, 2 children, has been walking without shelter for 2 days. The older child is hypothermic. Her lips are the color of a bruise. If you don't find shelter tonight, you will bury her in the snow tomorrow. The cave is the only option left. But as you approach the entrance, you smell it. Rich, rank, overwhelming, the dense biological stench of a large animal in a confined space. The hair rises on your arms. Something is already inside. Something that weighs 500 kilograms. The cave bear. Ursus spelaeus, the animal that turned survival into a zero-sum equation, because the one resource humans needed most was the exact resource this creature claimed as its own. Standing on its hind legs, it reached 3.5 meters. Its claws ran 20 centimeters long, backed by forearms built like structural beams. A single swipe could open a human torso from shoulder to hip, and it lived inside the caves humans needed to survive. At Chauvet Cave in France, the deepest chambers hold cave bear claw marks raked into the walls and nesting depressions worn into the stone floor by generations of bears returning to the same spot. The same cave contains some of the oldest human artwork ever found. Humans and cave bears use the same spaces, sometimes at different seasons, sometimes not. At Panthera in Romania, scientists found one of the oldest Homo sapiens skulls in Europe, alongside the remains of dozens of cave bears. The skull bore healed trauma consistent with a large animal attack. Healed, meaning this person survived a mauling and went on living. Not everyone was so fortunate. Your ancestors painted bears on cave walls, not from admiration, but from recognition, from the bone-deep understanding that this creature stood between them and the one resource that made winter survivable. Every approach to a cave mouth was a calculation. Drive the bear out with fire and noise and thrown rocks, or accept a colder, smaller space farther away and hope the cold doesn't finish what the bear started. Some groups succeeded. Some groups froze. The cave bear went extinct roughly 24,000 years ago, and humans were the primary cause. Not through hunting alone, but through displacement. Through the relentless colonization of every cave system the bears needed for hibernation. We took their caves, and without the caves, they died. But a cave bear could be heard, smelled, faced. The next predator offered none of those mercies. It moved through water too dark to see, in coils that had already crushed crocodiles, in a body that stretched the length of a city bus, and it had been perfecting this form of death for 60 million years. Number 5. Titanoboa. Titanoboa raiwa. You are small, not Homo sapiens small, something older, something that barely survived. You are a warm-blooded creature the size of a large rat, clinging to the underside of a branch in the flooded forests of the Paleocene, 60 million years before the first human draws breath. The dinosaurs were erased only a few million years ago. Your kind inherited a world you don't yet understand, and this world has already appointed a new ruler. You drop from your branch to drink. The water below is warm, murky, dark as old tea. You cannot see the bottom. You cannot see what has been lying motionless beneath the surface for the past hour, patient as stone, waiting for exactly this. Something wraps around you with the force of a hydraulic press. Your body folds. The air leaves you. And then you are underwater, pulled into coils of muscle so massive they feel like the earth itself is closing around you. Titanoboa. Titanoboa cerrejonensis. 13 meters long. 1,100 kilograms. The largest snake that has ever existed. Titanoboa did not hunt Homo sapiens. We didn't exist yet. But it hunted you, the tiny proto-mammal ancestors who clung to survival in the Paleocene heat, small enough and slow enough to be perfect prey for the ambush predator that inherited the swamps when the dinosaurs fell. The template it established, giant constrictor, warm water, motionless ambush, did not die with it. It shaped every snake that came after. And those snakes shared tropical forests with your primate ancestors for tens of millions of years. Your fear of snakes fires before conscious thought. Studies at the University of Virginia demonstrated that human infants as young as 6 months exhibit measurable stress responses to images of snakes, before they have ever seen one, before they possess any concept of danger. That fear is not learned. It is installed. And the factory was the Paleocene. Titanoboa's fossils were discovered in Colombia in 2009. The vertebrae were the size of dinner plates. Its constriction force has been estimated at over 400 pounds per square inch, a human ribcage collapses at roughly 50 pounds per square inch. Titanoboa would not have needed to try hard. The snake vanished as global temperatures cooled and its swampy kingdom dried out. But the fear it seeded has survived every extinction since. It lives in you right now. The pre-rational, full-body alarm that fires when your eye catches a serpentine shape in the grass. Your fear of snakes is not irrational. It is the most ancient and justified fear you carry. Calibrated not over years, but over 60 million years of things in the water that could take you before you knew they existed. But Titanoboa waited for prey to come to it. The next predator didn't wait. It walked. It tracked. It pursued you across open ground with the patience of a machine. And it was venomous. Number 4. Megalania. Imagine you are among the first humans to reach Australia. It is roughly 65,000 years ago. You've crossed the strait from Southeast Asia on crude rafts through waters thick with saltwater crocodiles. You've survived. You've made landfall on a continent no human has ever touched. The animals are shapes with no name. Giant wombats the size of rhinoceroses. Kangaroos standing 3 meters tall. You move cautiously, spear in hand, reading the ground, and then you find the tracks. Wide, deep, clawed. Something heavy, 4-legged, with a tail that has dragged a furrow in the sand between the prints. Fresh, the edges still crumbling. You raise your eyes to the tree line. Something is watching you from the shade. It is 7 meters long. Megalania. Varanus priscus, the largest venomous land predator in the history of this planet. 600 kilograms. The body plan of a Komodo dragon scaled to nightmare proportions, with serrated teeth designed to open wounds and deliver a venom cocktail that suppressed clotting, dropped blood pressure, and drove prey into progressive collapse. Megalania didn't need to kill you with the first bite. It needed to bite you once. Then follow you. Modern Komodo dragons use exactly this strategy, biting large prey and trailing it for hours or days as the venom does its work. Megalania applied the same patience to prey far larger than humans, but humans were easier, softer, less armored. Nothing in the first Australians' experience had prepared them for a venomous lizard the length of a bus. No other continent presented early people with a predatory reptile at this scale. The archaeological record shows it clearly. The first human sites cluster along coastlines, hugging the margins of the continent. Population density remained far lower than available resources could support for thousands of years. Something was containing them. Something was limiting their movement into the interior. That something left claw marks in the clay. Megalania went extinct between 40,000 and 50,000 years ago, within the same window as human arrival in Australia. Most paleontologists view the correlation as causal. The first Australians didn't just endure Megalania. They may have systematically destroyed it. But the price was written into the oldest layers of human memory on that continent. The flat, unblinking stare of a reptile that does not see you as a threat. The unhurried patience of something that knows you're already dead. You just haven't finished the process yet. Your nervous system still responds to that stare. That feeling has a name now. But venom and patience were not the only weapons evolution turned on your bloodline. The next creature needed neither. It was the fastest bear that ever lived. Built not to forage, not to scavenge, but to run prey down on open ground until it collapsed. And it could see you from a mile away. Number 3. Short-faced bear. You are running, not jogging. Running, the kind where your lungs are burning raw, your vision darkening at the edges, every footfall sending shock through your knees, because the ground is frozen and you cannot afford to fall. Falling is dying. Behind you, something is keeping pace without effort. You can hear it, the heavy percussion of massive paws, the measured exhalation of lungs the size of your torso, the mechanical cadence of an animal that is not sprinting. It doesn't need to sprint. It is loping, covering ground the way a freight train covers track, unstoppable, indifferent to your suffering. You are running at the absolute biological limit of a human body. The thing behind you is barely warm. The short-faced bear. Arctodus simus, the most dangerous bear that has ever lived. Standing on its hind legs, 4 meters, taller than the ceiling above you right now, weight reaching 900 kilograms in the largest males. But it is not the size that separates Arctodus from every other predator on this list. It is the legs. Long, straight, built along lines you would recognize in a pursuit predator. Not for climbing, not for digging, for running. Biomechanical analysis places its sustainable speed between 50 and 60 kilometers per hour. Usain Bolt's recorded peak is 44.7 on a prepared track in perfect conditions. The short-faced bear could sustain speeds beyond that on frozen, broken terrain while carrying 10 times the mass. You cannot outrun it. You cannot outclimb it. You cannot hide from it. Its elevated skull gave it a sightline above the grass that no other predator on the landscape could match, and its sense of smell could locate a human camp from kilometers downwind. Isotopic analysis of Arctodus bone reveals a diet weighted heavily toward meat, far more carnivorous than any modern bear. This was not an omnivore that occasionally took animals. This was a pursuit predator that chased large prey down on open ground, including the primates who had just arrived in his territory for the first time. Some researchers have argued that the short-faced bear may have physically delayed human colonization of the Americas, forcing early migrants to wait in the Beringian corridor for thousands of years until Arctodus populations began to decline. A single predator species so dominant, it held your civilization at the border of a continent. Arctodus went extinct roughly 11,000 years ago. By then, the first Americans had developed Clovis points, atlatls, coordinated hunting strategies, technologies of increasing lethality. Those weapons were not designed for rabbits. They were designed to kill the thing that had been killing you. But the short-faced bear came at you across open ground. You could see it. You had seconds, terrifying seconds, to respond. The next predator never gave you that. It specialized in the moment before you knew it was there, and it built 28 centimeters of curved surgical steel specifically to find the artery in your throat. Number 2, Saber-Toothed Cat. Dusk. The last amber light is failing over the dry riverbed. You're moving along the bank toward camp, somewhere in what will be called Southern California. The brush on either side is dense and waist-high, impenetrable past 2 meters. You keep your spear held high. You walk fast, because every member of your group knows you do not want to be alone outside the fire perimeter after the light fails. You do not hear the cat. Nobody ever hears the cat. One moment, you are walking. The next, something hits you from the left with the force of a vehicle collision, 270 kilograms driving you sideways into the clay. Your spear is gone. Your arm is pinned. You feel the heat of its breath on your neck, and then something cold and surgical pressing against your throat, adjusting by millimeters. Finding the vein. Smilodon fatalis, the most precisely engineered ambush killer in the history of terrestrial mammals. The canines, 28 centimeters long, curved, serrated, flattened like blades, not for crushing, for a single catastrophic puncture through thick hide and directly into the major vessels of the neck. Its forelimbs were more powerful than any modern cat's, built to pin prey absolutely still during the strike. Its jaw opened to 120 degrees, nearly twice the gape of a modern lion, to swing those canines clear. Every feature of this animal pointed toward one imperative: get the teeth into the throat. It didn't chase. Didn't need to. Smilodon concealed itself in dense vegetation and waited, motionless, for prey to enter the kill zone, then executed a lunge lasting less than 2 seconds. Over 2,000 Smilodon specimens have been recovered from La Brea. Their bones tell a story modern wolf bones don't: healed broken canines, fused crushed vertebrae, catastrophic injuries survived. This animal regularly fought prey that fought back. It was built to take things larger than itself. Bison, horses, juvenile mammoths. Your ancestors were not larger than itself. That is precisely the problem. Its weaponry was calibrated for penetrating the thick hides of megafauna. Against a human body, thin skin, shallow musculature, blood vessels close to the surface, those canines were obscenely overpowered. You were not its intended prey. You were easy prey. A single canine strike to the human neck severed the carotid and jugular simultaneously. Unconsciousness within seconds. 60 seconds. That is all it took. Your ancestors survived by restructuring their entire daily existence around one rule: stop moving at dusk. Archaeological evidence of human activity in Smilodon territory shows overwhelming concentration in daylight hours. Camps were established, fires lit, perimeters secured before the last light faded. Because when the light failed, Smilodon owned every shadow in the world. It went extinct roughly 10,000 years ago. The megafauna collapsed, the ambush habitat shrank, and the thin, clever primates that had once been easy prey had become something the cat had no framework for, something that fought back in the dark. But there is one creature left, one predator above Smilodon, larger, faster, more adaptable, more persistent than anything else on this list. And it didn't hunt your ancestors through instinct alone. It hunted them through something that looked disturbingly like strategy. Your ancestors feared it so completely, they crawled into the deepest chambers of their caves, in total darkness, by the light of animal fat lamps, and painted it on the walls. Not as art, as a warning to every person who came after them. A warning to you. Number 1. Cave lion. There is no sound. Not what you hear, what you don't. The forest has gone absolutely silent. Birds stopped mid-call. Insects stopped. Even the wind has drawn back, as if the air itself recognizes what is present. You are at the edge of a clearing in Ice Age Europe, 40,000 years ago. Your hunting party, 6 people with flint-tipped spears, has been tracking reindeer for 2 days across frozen ground. Exhausted, hungry, focused on the tracks ahead, not thinking about what is focused on you. 3 of them are already in position in the tree line to your left. 20 meters apart, bodies pressed low, utterly silent. A 4th has circled behind your group, cutting off the path to camp. The 5th, the largest, lies motionless in a snow depression directly ahead, waiting for the others to drive you forward. They are hunting you the way you hunt reindeer. Coordinated, patient, intelligent. The cave lion, Panthera spelaea, the apex predator of the Ice Age. The most dangerous animal your species has ever shared a world with. The deepest reason you exist the way you do. Fearful, vigilant, tribal, never fully at rest. Males weighed up to 360 kilograms. Shoulder height approached 1.4 meters. From nose to tail, over 3.5 meters of muscle. But size alone did not make the cave lion what it was. Intelligence did. Cave lions hunted in coordinated groups, employing flanking maneuvers, deliberate ambush positioning, and tactical planning that researchers struggle to describe without reaching for words usually reserved for humans. The evidence arrives from multiple directions. Kill sites where prey was driven into terrain traps, ravines, cliff edges, lake margins, indicating the lions were not simply chasing but guiding. And then, most chillingly, the paintings. At Chauvet Cave in France, dated to 36,000 years ago, cave lions are depicted in groups, in motion, in hunting formations, heads lowered, ears forward, weight shifted, the compressed silhouette of a cat in the final phase before the charge. Your ancestors made these images deep in chambers reachable only by crawling through narrow passages in total darkness, working by the light of animal fat lamps, using pigments they manufactured and carried. Why? Why expend those precious calories, that irreplaceable time, to paint something almost no one would ever see? Because the cave lion was not simply a predator. It was the organizing force of Paleolithic life. It determined where your ancestors camped and where they refused to go, how large their groups had to be, when they moved, and when they stayed absolutely still. Its range stretched from the British Isles to the Yukon, from the Mediterranean to Siberia. Every major human population in Europe and northern Asia coexisted with this animal for over 300,000 years. There was no outrunning it, no continent you could flee to where it wasn't already waiting. At multiple Paleolithic sites, human bones have been found inside cave lion dens, intermixed with horse and reindeer bones, dragged there, like food. Because to the cave lion, that is what they were. And unlike most large predators, it never developed consistent avoidance of human settlements. Its den sites cluster near human occupation zones. Its presence in the archaeological record is densest where human populations were densest. It lived beside your ancestors for 300,000 years, and it kept killing them. How did humans survive? Through everything they became. Fire used not just for warmth, but as a territorial weapon, pushed outward to claim ground the darkness had always surrendered to the lion. Weapons engineered to kill from a distance, because closing with 360 kilograms of coordinated field was suicide. Larger social groups, with designated sentinels and rotational watches, ensuring no individual was ever alone and exposed. And language. The need to communicate danger with speed and precision. Lions, 5, left flank, cutting off the path behind us, may owe its very development to the pressure of surviving coordinated predation. The cave lion may have made human language necessary. It didn't just hunt your ancestors. It built them. It built their weapons, their fire disciplines, their social structures, their languages, their art. It built their fear. And through 300,000 years of relentless selection pressure, it built the survivors who eventually became something it had no framework for. Panthera spelaea went extinct approximately 13,000 years ago. Climate change fractured its habitat. The great prey herds contracted, and the humans it had spent 300 millennia shaping into better and better prey, had become organized, armed, and relentless. The hunted had become the hunters. But the cave lion left something in you before it went. Something pressed into your DNA through 300,000 years of encounters in the dark. It is still there. Every creature on this list is gone. The dire wolves, the cave hyenas, the saber-toothed cats, the great bears, the venomous lizards, the eagle that came from the sky, the snake from the deep water, the lions that hunted like armies. All of them, gone, extinct, erased from a world they once dominated completely. You are the only species on this list that still exists. 10 predators, among the most lethal killing machines evolution has ever produced, and you are the one that survived. Not through strength or speed or armor, through fear, through cooperation, through the blood-soaked refusal to be erased that defines your entire genetic history. But here is what survival costs, what it leaves behind in the body that endures it. Every fear you carry was earned. Not in a classroom, not in a theater, in the dark, in the cold, on the killing floor of the Pleistocene, where the only thing between your ancestors and oblivion was a sharpened stick, a circle of fire, and each other. Your fear of the dark? That is the cave hyena. Your fear of snakes? That is 60 million years of constrictors in the water below you. Your fear of being watched from somewhere you cannot see? That is the cave lion, motionless in the tree line, eyes fixed on the back of your neck. Your flinch when a shadow crosses overhead too fast? That is Haast's Eagle. Your unease on open ground with no cover? The short-faced bear. Your instinct to press your back against a wall. Your reflex to check behind you when you walk alone at night. Your brain's compulsive ability to find eyes in patterns, shapes in shadows, movement in stillness, all of it. Every nameless dread that rises in you in the dark was written by something that wanted to eat you. Something real. Something that left bones in the ground scientists are still pulling from the earth today. The predators are gone, but you still check behind you when you walk alone at night. Your body remembers what your mind has spent 10,000 years trying to forget. And somewhere in your Dina, right now, in this moment, those teeth are still closing. But here is what the predators never were. The worst thing. The cave lion could be outrun. The dire wolf turned back by fire. Smilodon avoided before dusk. Every creature on this list could be survived if you were fast enough, smart enough, lucky enough. Every predator required your ancestors to make a mistake. The earth itself made no such demand. Then subscribe, because the next video enters that world. The world where the predators were already gone, and the earth itself became the thing hunting your bloodline. Your fear of the animals is just the beginning of the story. The ground beneath your feet has its own chapter, and it is longer